Hello, everyone.
Howdy.
So you're very casual today.
Well, I was out doing some yard work outside at church, working on the preschool playground area,
Yeah.
and I thought we were doing this live this afternoon
You're
as
wrong.
we were talking, and so yeah, I tried to take my hat off, but
No,
the hair,
he's got hat hair.
it was
Well, there you go. Okay. It's really good that you can be
You don't
very,
like this?
really vulnerable.
I could do this really quick.
Put the hat back on. Oh my goodness. So I hope that I have not made a mistake by having you sit here with me. I haven't. I'm just being a brat. So we've had a lot going on as we normally do. Yeah, I know we have, and so we've had a hard time inserting this where we wanted to earlier this month. So we're going
That's
to do
true.
it now. And what we were actually going to talk about is our sanctuary renovation
Yeah, I mean that's coming up. I mean, I think the last day of giving is
soon.
today, tomorrow, something like that.
Something
yeah.
like that, yeah. So because of that, I wanted to give a little back history.
Mhm.
First and foremost, Henry was never one to put money into buildings. That was not his thing. It never was. It never has been. He was more interested in making sure the lights were on, that we had heat, things like that. But
Comfortable chairs.
yeah, comfortable chairs. We eventually got there, but that was not even the main thing. Our first chairs were metal chairs. I'm sure you remember
my
that.
first visit, July 25th, 99, when I came in those doors over there, it was metal folding chairs, and some people had those little bitty butt cushions.
Yeah, they
Like
brought
you
their
normally-
own
like you would have for outdoors, like
stadium events.
stadium
Yeah.
event or even lawn chairs.
Uh-huh.
And that's what some people had. They carried them in and carried them out. I didn't know I was. Sarah didn't tell me to bring mine.
So you had numb bum before it was over. Well, let me just give you an idea for those of you watching that have never been in this building, or you've not been in it
Years.
a long time ago. So where we are actually sitting right now was actually the partition. There was an 8-foot partition,
Panel wall.
panel wall, and so there was it was just basically kind of just
You would have been on
stood
one
up.
side. I'd
Yeah.
have been on the other.
Right, exactly. And on the other side, they had little braces to make sure that didn't
Mhm.
come down. And we actually had a door, and at the very end,
One on that end and one
and
on this end.
we did. And so, but when we first came into this building, that's how it was, just a partition wall here, because another corporation had it before we had moved here, and they were printing and making literature. So they had an operations in this building for doing that. For the rest of the building, I think that it was pretty mostly unused. Okay. But when we got here, so there's an 8-foot tall wall, but there's nothing above it. So obviously, air conditioning or heating in this room was.
Well, I know when I came. Now I can't speak for before then. Y'all had air conditioning on that side.
We did.
I can't remember if there was 1 or 2 units, but I know there was at least 1. Now we've got 2 on each side. I know there was at least 1 unit. The petition, the curtain, which we'll talk about in a minute, but the heaters on both sides were still the big gas,
Way up there.
big
Yeah,
burner kind of things that you get in an old gymnasium.
that's correct. And so I suppose that's why they didn't finish the rest of the wall.
Because that heated this side.
Right, because it needed. So, of course, that wasn't going to do. Now, remembering also, this was a gymnasium. It was gymnasium. There was a Bobcat mascot on the wall. It was red.
Yep.
And then there actually was markings for the basketball courts.
The basketball coop.
You've been with chickens a little long. Yeah.
The basketball hoop was still up on this side, and the scoreboard, which was still operational if you had the control unit, was actually still on the wall.
This is correct.
Because I remember for Sarah's and mine wedding,
Yes.
we took the basketball coop, there it is again, hoop down, but
The scoreboard.
stayed up.
Yeah, those were the days. So we ended up wanting to be able to air and condition and heat this side. So the Olympics were held in Atlanta. I don't remember what year that was, 96. So there was a lot of vendors who still had things left over. And there was a guy who happened to go to our church at the time. He had vended at the Olympics, and he had this huge, I don't know how tall that thing was.
It was enough to go from the top of the 8-foot ceiling or the 8-foot wall to the top of the ceiling.
Right.
So that's 25, 30 feet long.
And it did the job. So basically, we could go ahead and heat and air this side, and we did for a long time, actually. We eventually, I recognized the acoustics in here were horrible. We were playing live music at the time. And if you know anything about acoustics, it was bouncing everywhere. It was horrendous. If you've ever been anywhere where there was a concert in a gymnasium or a civic center or something, that's how it was. It was really horrible. So that took me on the journey of how do I get good acoustics with little to no money. And so that's what began my journey of looking behind every church we went to or conference we went to. I looked to see how they did it. Mm-hmm. So that's how the curtains became.
Well, okay, backtrack a little bit further. So we got to share what's behind the curtains, because the curtains you see on whichever camera is live now, what you see here was not version 1. This is like version 3. So you had just the plain block wall that we used to watch the squirrel run across during church services. He'd run across, listen for a little while, get filled with the Holy Spirit, then run back out.
Well, he also was stealing my fringe off a banner I had for his nest. It was very silvery. He liked that. Okay.
So, and then the burlap season came into play that I'm just smiling because my mom, who is the decorator, went through a burlap season, and the entire curtain was all burlap all the way around everything.
Wait, no, you're wrong. That was not burlap. No.
Was not burlap.
No, you are wrong. Now that's burlap, but that wasn't burlap. Oh. What had happened was we have mills here in Thomaston.
That's right. My bad.
And some of those mills were not shut down yet. So they had fabric that they would have like really cheap. So I went to one of these mill cells and I ended up buying conveyor belt fabric that they had not dipped in the black stuff. So it was white. Mm-hmm. So I could see why you kind of think that, but it was more of a cream color.
Yeah, I'm a guy.
But it was thick, okay?
I'm
it was
a guy.
Thick, all right. And I know you're a guy. So, but it was thick, and so it would help with the buffering.
Because behind there is foam egg crates.
Yes, absolutely.
Along behind this entire wall back here, and along the side ones when you've been in here is egg crate. And so we put it up, stapled it up, glued it to the wall, whatever we could do to get it to stay up. And then the batting kind of stuff, the conveyor belt stuff went up. And then as we upgraded, I remember we shut everything down for a couple of weeks, and we ended up coming and putting the loop-de-loop little drapery looking stuff.
Called swoopy-doos.
Swoopy-doos.
Yeah.
And then these curtains. But it has a nice history to it. And those swoopy-doos have been up for...
Well, originally we had burgundy swoopy-doos because we had the cream-colored fabric. So it was a burgundy and cream theme. And honestly, it was, when you say I'm the decor person, I never liked any of it. Okay, I'll be honest with you. But you got to do
out of necessity.
You got to do what you got to do, and it looked better than those walls. And I do want to say that at one point it wasn't the first of the Olympic thing being put up. It was when we actually put burgundy fabric to cover it. That was the second phase. There was a time during that time when almost everybody here was sick.
Yeah.
Okay. We had over there where there are offices in a school now were dormitories where people would come until they were healed. Campground, same thing. So all the people coming here were sick with something, and some unto death. And so when we actually did this refurb and this redo, I had people working that were actually dying.
I remember when we did the first and second one of the ladies who was dealing with coming out of severe allergies, like severe allergies, and a whole list of other things. We rented a scissor lift, big, huge 4x8 scissor lift, and we handled the banners and those kinds of things. But
we also we painted that ceiling. It was white. We made it black to go away.
I remember doing that too. And she was at the top of the scissor lift with one of the maintenance guys at the time. She had a harness on because she wanted to be safe. but it was her first time walking out of Fear of Heights. Some of the allergies of the amount of dust in this room because it was awful back then. And we really, truly, it was I don't want to say sick people because it was those that were recovering from environmental illness and MCSEI and a whole list of electromagnetic sensitivity and those kinds of things who were now doing the work in here. And it was really cool. We've got pictures, and if we would have had the time to be able to do it, we could have done it. But we've got pictures of every stage of this building, watching the different people within the congregation who had been unto death that now weren't, were the ones giving back for all the blessings that they had received. And that was how they put it
And
back
one of the
into it.
things that they would do, you say, well, what did they do? Well, we sewed a lot. So there's a lot of ladies that sewed, just straight sews, so that we could hang a lot of this stuff. There was also a lot of stapling that occurred. And then there was a lot of lifting into higher places. But I'm going to tell you, the whole spirit of that whole thing, anytime we did it, was just always one of just wanting to give back. That's what they wanted to do. They wanted to give back, because some of these people that I'm talking about did go on to be with the Lord. They did not make it, but they really enjoyed working and doing something together in a community like this for the good of all people. And that whole spirit has never left.
True.
It's never left. Now, this phase that we have now is the most latest, and obviously is tired and worn. It's always been like that. But the point I guess I want to make is we came from metal chairs with no carpet to this. And this isn't the greatest ever, and that's okay. But it's time to do it.
I would agree.
And so my dream has been, and Henry's dream had been, to actually have drywall. To have another level, at least partially, so we could use the space wisely, because space is something that we don't have a lot of. And so I just wanted to give you some back history that this building has been so beneficial and a part of so many people's lives. And to be able for me to sit here, if I just quietly just think about how far God brought us from this gymnasium and the things he's done in this room, weddings, funerals, graduations, people coming for their lives to be healed from incurable diseases. I mean, this room has seen a lot of stuff, and it's all been amazing, and it's all been God. And so, we'd really like to have, this redone, but in some ways, I'm going to tell you, it's going to be a happy sad, because this truly has been the sanctuary that love built. It really has been. And I will never forget, no matter how slick this might end up looking or not, I don't know, I will always remember the days when we still had the markings of the basketball, on the floor, and that we walked over to that room over here for the reception of your wedding, which was not air conditioned on that side.
And the air conditioning in June got to be 99 degrees that day, and the air conditioner broke, and Sarah was over here. We were trying to get pictures done, and we had to roll in fans just to.
She was dripping, and
our cake melted.
It did. We've had cakes melt before,
good,
but it did taste.
And we've
good.
had melted ones since.
We've had melted ones since then. But just so you get to know our hearts, is that I don't knock anybody with great buildings. I think that's fantastic. I'm glad they could do it. But for us, this will always be simple. It won't be some cathedral or anything like that. And I hope it'll be comfortable, but not too comfortable. Because Henry's always said he'll electrify the seats to get, It
will never have pews.
We'll not have pews, but we would like to have some really comfortable chairs.
Yep.
That's one of the things we'd like to have. And the whole place is going to be totally different. And we want you to be part of that. I know that there's many of you watching who can remember even some of the things we're talking about. And maybe you haven't, but you have been in this room. And we have a lot on the table for this room.
Yes, we do.
We do. And I'm excited about it. And I think it's time for that move to happen. But never forgetting where we came from.
No, there's still part of me who wants to go back there and mark where I sat the first church service, because I can stand there and I remember where I stood. There might be a small mark on that concrete slab when we're done, and it have my since I'll be here. I might have my initials underneath that stain on that concrete slab because that's where I sat.
I thought for sure when you said that you were going to say I might have to go back on that mark because what I thought I was going to do is he was going to straighten chairs because
that might happen anyways.
One of the things that Henry Wright had an obsession with was chairs and how they had to be so far apart. You could only have this many in a row. Now, you might not look at it now because, well, he's been in heaven for almost 2 years. He'd probably go, somebody needs to straighten these chairs.
Well, I look at it because I'm still the deacon of the chairs, even though I'm a pastor, and it bugs me.
So he's got the anointing now for that, or whatever you want to call it, for the straightening of the chairs. And so at any given time, Scott was supposed to know how many chairs were in this room. So in case Henry asked how many chairs in this room, he's got an answer for how many chairs in this room. See, there you go. So, but straightening chairs was always the joke about being a servant.
Even before popular comedians did it, that was where, because Dad always said when you were ready to serve, and he goes, you'll be one of the first ones here, you'll clean up the trash and you'll fix the chairs so the next group of people coming in do it. And that was one of the first things I remember him asking me to come help. Before we did anything else, before I was involved in anything else, he grabbed me one day, says, I need you to come with me and help me set the chairs for Friday night service. And we came in here, and I realized that after about 2 or 3 times, that job was now mine, and it's been mine for 22 years. And I can still do it with my eyes closed. Half my kids know how to do it. Back when we had a media team of 9 strong, I taught them how to do it, but they had to have a chart. And tape on the floor. And tape on the floor, and it's how many feet off of this, and no more than ever having more than 9 chairs, because you're not supposed to cross anyone more than, I think it was 5 people at a time. Right. So I think we have 2 rows that have 9 in it. That way you're never crossing. You can choose which direction you go. And that design won't change in the new layout because you'll still have no more than that people because no one wants to see your backside that much.
That's right. And so there was actually a mathematical equation to the placing of seats. So that was always a big deal for Henry, and now Scott, and now more of his children will pass on that. But I wanted to give you a little bit of history. I know that maybe you've come and you're thinking, well, there's not one thing in here that says Jesus or God, and Henry did that by design. Henry was great at deconstructing. And what I mean by that, deconstructing, is like you may have a principle or an understanding that is in Scripture, or anywhere for that matter, but how did it become what it was? So he would deconstruct things so that you could lay out all the ingredients, if you will, to how did that thought or how did that understanding become built? And that's what he did. So he would deconstruct to construct. And the reason why I say that is because I went through many phases with Henry, but many of you have heard about the time frame of when we went 6 weeks without him saying a word. He was deconstructing what you thought you understood or knew, or how you heard God even. And he wasn't concerned about not letting that happen. He let the uncomfortableness of that moment just bury into you so it would become a meaningful experience when it was constructed. And so with that being said, Henry deconstructed a lot of things that I ever saw him. One of those was praise and worship. We did live praise and worship for quite a while, actually. And then it became him and I, we talked it. That's right. We talked
my
about it.
Coop.
Yeah. And in our conversations with God and ourselves together, we understood that he wanted to deconstruct that. Bring it all the way down so that we can really focus on what God was telling us to focus on at that time in totality, which was the Word of God and teaching and understanding. Not that those things are wrong.
No.
They would be constructed again later, but at this time we were deconstructing. And
I had a flashback of sitting in the kitchen at your house, and it's going to sound old school. We were mixing a mixtape for that Sunday morning service of 2 other cassettes that we'd play and record and then stop and remix those things. And I think I still own those from that first Sunday. We said, he said, we're going to no longer do live music. We're going to take a break from that. And I want us to focus on, instead of the music and performance related kind of things, but just on the word, and allow people to enter into worship without having to worry about performing. And I remember staying up to like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, getting that tape ready for that next morning. And there was such a, it was just kind of cool. And we've done that and mixed things back and forth since then. But I remember that change, and there was always a reason for it. And I also know that when you made a comment, there's nothing that says God, the Father, or Jesus in here. And because you were supposed to find Jesus in each of us, we were supposed to be showing God's love. That was, what would Jesus do kind of thing. But we were supposed to be the example, because that's what Jesus commanded us to do, is continue to show God the Father's love. And so people are supposed to find it here and also find it in themselves in the Word. And so there wasn't anything up. I mean, I remember when we put the trees up for the first time. Banners don't say anything. There's no fancy things on it. I remember the blue podium that we used to have. Oh, that was the ugliest thing in the world. I think it had rejoice on it, or joy, or something like that on it. We went from that to a wooden podium, and Dad said it wasn't big enough, because if you can't put his notes and his Bible on the same podium without something falling off, it wasn't big enough. And I think the large podium we have here is the 4th or 5th one we've done in 20 years, all with different stories and all history behind them. But yeah, I mean, you made a comment that this building has a lot of history and a lot of memories in it. And it will be an interesting feeling when we gut the entire thing out
and make it a normal building, right?
And make it, instead of, you won't see brick walls, you won't see any of that. And when we gut everything out and really take it back to, honestly, the floor and just the block, and then kind of takes the things that even Dad talked about having years ago, minus the rotating round platform, which honestly, I'm a little sad we're not doing that. But some things you just have to compromise. Next new building.
Yeah, well, but there's always a next step.
Some of the things that he always talked about wanting to be able to do in it. I'm looking forward to being able to have that opportunity to do that, and to see it happen here, to get some of the things that we wrote down on napkins and paper towels, and because it was the only notepad we could find really quick in the middle of a restaurant. To have for what this building looks like next.
Also, when we're talking about there was no Jesus or God or banners, because prior to all of that, when I talked about deconstruction, I was a banner artist. I mean, I made banners. I mean, I did lots of things. Okay. But it was a time when God said, no, I don't want any of those things. And so I had to really die to that myself, and just to really hear God, what is he trying to say? In fact, honestly, my journey includes the bringing the arts back to the church, whatever you want to call that today. And I had to really deconstruct what I believe God was saying even then too, where we didn't have that type of dancing in the church anymore. Dancing's okay. I'm not saying that, but there are certain types of dancing that are not okay. And things that incorporate everyone, those are great. Ones that just spotlight you, not good. And so anyway, so that changed. So we do have banners up here, and they don't say anything. They basically are just bringing the ceiling down. It was just kind of an aesthetic thing, and that was it. That was all. They meant nothing. And Henry wanted you to hear God. He didn't want some banner or some movement that someone did, or even a song that someone saying do something more for you than the Spirit of God was doing for you already.
Anything that might distract you from being able to enter into that moment of worship with the Lord was kind of, I mean, even to backdrops on the screen when we finally moved from when we finally got to a point that we can move from the transparencies,
which we still actually have somewhere.
I have those stored away.
You guys remember transparencies?
Yeah, you do. I don't know if my kids know what transparencies are.
Probably don't.
We may have to break those out one day just to give them instruction of history. I remember you had the live band, and you had Diane Kelly used to sit over right about through here, and she'd sit there in her little chair, and she would flip the transparencies for each song. And wow, talk about reminiscing really quick. And then I remember when we transferred everything to PowerPoint in the back of the room, and we used the projectors and we displayed up topside. And I remember I chose a background once, only once, that was moving. It wasn't busy, but it was busy. But it was moving. And that lasted one song, one time only. And I remember Dad walked to the back, and he didn't say it up front, which I'm really grateful he didn't that time. But he walked back and he whispered in my ear, he goes, I don't like that. Never do that again. Yes, sir. And I don't think we've done it since. There might be one sneak in for special occasions, but outside of that, it is white lettering and black background, and that's the extent of it.
Well, he was really big in marketing too, so he really wanted, he had a way that things should actually look and sound, and if it interfered with that, no, we're not doing that. Okay, so that was his world. Well, so I'm just saying that I'm really excited about this redo, and we do have a second level that's in here, and we don't have it written out to show you and all those kind of things. We do have it.
Working on it.
Yeah, we're working on that. And but I do know this, that it's time. It's time for this building to become what it's supposed to be. And I just want to give you the opportunity to sow into that. Rarely do we ever have these types of fundraisers, if you want to call them, but we are now. We want to redo the sanctuary in all ways, and it's going to be a wonderful time. And we're going to use wisdom. Like I said, we're not into opulence. That's not us. But we are into opulence. Yeah,
that's a cool word.
It is a very cool
that.
Opulence.
I might get $1.
Wow. But I am into some very comfortable seats.
You know what? What's so funny is we bought a set for the youth department.
And I like those. I like those chairs.
2014.
Has it been that long?
Yes, we bought those in 2014.
These are ancient, and these were seconds.
And these were second go around. So we've had
we bought these used.
We've had these now for a while. It's time to.
So the chair was metal chairs, and then it went to gray chairs that really were metal chairs. You just had some kind of carpeting stuff.
They had
put over
arms.
them. They had arms.
But it was like you were like this, and it was uncomfortable.
Yeah, we bought those, and then we got these second hands, and then the pink chairs we've had for quite some time. Somebody gave them to us, and they work for our special sections, but they're going bye-bye.
You know, they're not even remotely pink anymore.
No,
they were never pink.
They were never pink.
They were always the gray chairs, now non-green chairs. But
Henry called them pink, so they weren't
so
pink.
faded. They're
weird. Salmon. Anyway, they're going bye-bye too. So, is there anything else that you want to say about? I just wanted to give you a little bit of history about this room. I mean, the people that have gotten born again, filled with the Holy Spirit, healed, relationships totally changed. Marriage conferences, I'm thinking about those. Yeah. I mean, the kids programs, the adults programs. Wow.
I just know the things that. See, you watch me, and I'm looking around because I'm picturing it in my head of all the things, because we are changing the orientation of it. We're, instead of going this direction like you're looking, we're going to shoot everything that way. So the front will be that way. There'll be not a balcony, but our video studio will be on the second floor on this side, plus offices for the program. But we're getting rid of all the carpet, and we're going to do staining down here to where we can actually use this multi-purpose and have times to eat in here.
The acid in
the acid thing.
I want to
do
the acid in the
still working on that too. And just making this more usable friendly for what we're doing, because I'm not sure where the camera's shooting, how much it got, but you know, the two wings that we have on both sides of the stage, we don't hardly ever use. And just a better use of this room to where we can really do more things in it, including even have banquets in here and have receptions in here instead of I go to a different room, and I just sit back and there's a moment that I think through of what all's happened in this room, and not that changing it dissipates or belittles what's happened. It just will change the mindset a little bit, and it will lighten it up, and it changes the look and feel in here. And I'm just really excited for it, and I hope that both you as Be in Health and also anyone that's watching from Hope of the Generations Church, since this is your church home as well, I hope you get involved with this as well in your giving to help support what we're doing as a whole. And hopefully in the next few weeks we can cut out a new picture. We can get the demo kind of picture looking what's going to happen in here. I'm just excited, and I know I'm probably a little calmer because if I get really excited, I'm gonna start talking really fast and rattling off stuff that we're not quite sure about yet, and then we'll have to change it later.
One of the holdbacks that why we didn't do this sooner was because we weren't sure if we were going to buy more land or different land to house a new sanctuary. And we have thrown that around through the years, back and forth, and we finally landed on the situation that we're just going to use what we have for right now. Our world is very uncertain. The only thing that I am certain is that God is with us, and that's what I'm certain about. And so we feel like we have a green light to keep going with this, and so that's what we're going to do. And I'm excited about this being a more multifunctional room
with bathrooms in the building.
Yes. Yes. So I think that we can end on that note. We're so excited to have plumbing in this building.
So if you'd like to give, I think Mary can shoot up a link really quick, or we'll put it in the description somewhere, right in through here or whatever. To want to give, I think it's on the donate page of beinhealth.com, and it's probably beinhealth.com/donate. That's probably if I'm thinking right. Hit that link and sow some seed into Be in Health and Hope the Generations Church, and what that looks like for the next group of people, the next generation really, of what they're going to see and be a part of. And so,
I had someone ask me a question the other day about giving, and so I'm going to reiterate it, that when you give into Hope of the Generations, that's the reason why you do that is because we have become what Henry calls the watering hole, or this is where you get fed. Like maybe you do go to another church, or maybe you don't go to another church, but you get fed through our Sunday services, whether you live here or you're somewhere else. That's what we like to call, that's the giving that you should give to where you get fed. Then we have the Be in Health side, and the Be in Health is basically sowing into that to be able to reach more people through Be in Health. That's the ministry arm of Hope of the Generation, and we really thank you for that as well. But then we also have this building project, which is something that's totally different from all of those things, and that's why when you designate, that's important for that reality. And that can be that you just really been to Be in Health, you love us, you give to us, you don't give to us, whatever, but you want to give to this. Give to this. Maybe this is your home church, and you come here and you get fed all the time, or you listen online or whatever. Then giving to the building project, that's a designated giving for the purpose of this room. So that's that, and I hope I made it clear. Okay, because a lot of times people don't go, well, what am I giving into? So that's what this is.
And I hope we can get some more. We'll get more updates as soon as we've got a project team created, and we're starting to have meetings and chat about what the next stages are, and we're looking at the first of next year being able to start moving things around and getting it done.
Well, we'll keep you informed as we go, and this is going to be an exciting update. So, all right. Well, with that, thanks for hanging out with us here in a little
trip
bit of our
down
history.
memory lane.
Yeah, and I'm sure there'll be more of that. At some point, we're going to show some photos as soon as we get our act together. Summers are sometimes one of the most difficult times to do that because everybody's going in so many different directions, and we just kind of pass each other, doing what we do. So,
yeah.
So with that, I guess we're done.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, we love you guys. See you next
Love you guys.
time. Bye.
Bye.